So I spend the next 2 weeks just like packing up my entire life, seeing what I'm trying to bring to China, seeing what I'm not bringing. 5 hours before my plane is supposed to leave, like I am packed up about to leave for the airport in like an hour or two. But I get this email from the company and they're like, hey Veronica, we ended up revising your contract. Can you please just look that over, re-sign, and send that over to us before you hop on your plane? Thanks. They ended up changing my pay, they ended up changing my housing, and then they also informed me that they messed up on submitting Logan's spousal visa documentation. So he is going to not be able to come anymore because they missed a certain deadline. He wouldn't be able to come for like X amount of months, which was like essentially close to 12 months, which was the time allotted for my contract in general. So it was just like this huge, big, messy situation. And it just honestly felt highly disrespectful. You know, 21 years old, they clearly know that these people are young and in a semi-vulnerable state of just moving and leaving their entire lives in their home country, going to another distant land. And you're just changing all of these guidelines, again, hours before, 16-hour flight over. Make it make sense. Like, it just, none of it sat right. I had to make one of the hardest decisions I think I've ever been faced with and tell them that I was not following through with it due to them changing all of our established guidelines months prior. Mind you, I signed this contract at the very beginning of my career with this company. It felt so embarrassing. I felt like I'm becoming the person that I always despised. Like, I want to walk the walk and talk the talk, and now here I am telling people that I'm doing this big move to another country, and psych, I'm actually not, haha. Not only was that just like gut-wrenching, my entire life was just swiped from beneath my feet, that also left Logan and I in this weird situation of, okay, what do we do with our lives now? Like, we were supposed to move to China today. That's not happening. We got an incredible apartment that was built in the 1920s. So like the character was just off the chart. I guess technically it was like a 4-family home thing where it was like 1, 2, 3, 4 like spaces to live in. Sorry about the lighting. The sun just keeps like coming out of the clouds and coming into the clouds, and I shoot manually, so I have to like manually change the light. Anyway. And it was a decent time of life. I started my own business and clothing brand, No Comply Threads, where I feature independent artists. I had a job in my creative career field, which is crazy to do right out of university in a highly competitive market like graphic design is. Logan had a job in his career field. Like, things all kind of came together pretty perfectly, like as perfectly as you could hope for, what it felt like, at least at the time. So I couldn't figure out for the life of me why about 2 months into this new routine, this new way of life, I just found myself so unbelievably miserable. Like, I remember just dreaming of the day of when I could just have one singular job that was 40 hours a week, rather than having to drive over all 3 different towns to work all these different odd jobs to get a collective 40 hours a week, while going to school full time on top of that. I really thought that just having one 40-hour-a-week job, I would be good. And especially so with just how much I loved this job I was doing in general. Like, when I tell you I loved what I did, I loved what I did. I worked as a production artist as well as graphic designer at this big screen printing company, and I had my own office. People would come in and talk to me about getting logos designed, getting shirts and just apparel in general designed for their company, whether they need like new garments for their employees, or they want to give a gift to their employees for Christmas, or just people in the community organizing a 5K run, and you know, just anything you can think of across the board where you need a t-shirt made, or you need a hoodie made, or you need sweatpants made. Like, I was your girl designing it all. So not only did I have complete creative freedom in regards to like the client's requests and whatnot, right? I was happy every second that I was at work. Like, I loved what I did. The problem was that this 40 hours a week just ate up my entire life. Like truly, it ate up my entire life. I would wake up at 6 a.m. I would take a 1 to 2 mile walk around the neighborhood. I would come back home, get ready for work, drive to work to be there at 8 a.m., come back around 4:30 to 5. Logan and I would go to the gym for like an hour, hour and a half, back home around like 7. We'd start making dinner, which we cook everything from scratch for the most part, so that's like an hour, 2 hour ordeal. Start eating dinner at like 9 p.m. By the time we're like winding down and like watching a movie or something with dinner, it's like 10 p.m. We have to go to bed to then redo everything for the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. And by the time Saturday and Sunday roll around, my 2 off days of the week, there's 7 days in a week, and you get 2 off days to actually live your life. What? I would be so exhausted. Like I would classify myself as like an extroverted introvert, so I need time to recharge, I need time by myself, I need time to just like rest for a second. So I'm either resting on my 2 off days, or I'm trying to like see my family, I'm trying to see my friends, I'm trying to create art, I'm trying to do things that I'm not able to do during the week because my schedule is just like packed full. So after living this routine for a few months, kind of start to realize like this is it. Like I made it. This is what my life will be looking like for the next how many years until I retire. Top of that, I'm like, man, I like really thought I wanted to be a mother one day. How am I supposed to be a mom when I don't even have time for myself in this like routine, in this life? Like it just doesn't make sense. And in this time in my life, I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone about how I was feeling, or else I would be perceived as this like entitled brat who, I don't know, who like doesn't want to work or something. When that's not the case, I'm fine with working. I enjoy working as long as it's something that I, you know, get a little bit of happiness from. But just the amount of hours, the amount of time I had to dedicate to some job where like I was just a number, like it just blew my mind. But that's what all my friends were doing, and that's what all of my friends' parents were doing. That's what my parents have done their entire lives. That's what their parents have done their entire lives, and I'm sure their parents did their lives. So like I just felt stuck and isolated, and like I was wrong for having these feelings of I was not put on this planet to work this much. I wasn't put on this earth to just like enjoy parts of childhood and then become an adult, and then just like your life is just this now for forever, essentially. I'm someone that's always been prone to depression and anxiety, and so like those kinds of things just snowball, especially when you're already in a deep dark hole. And this was the deepest, darkest of holes I had ever found myself having to climb out of. Suicide ideation started to surface, and it was just a really, really hard time. And then on top of that, a colleague of mine ended up committing suicide, and that just made things so much harder because I just viewed her as this like incredibly strong, independent, driven woman. And if she couldn't make it out of this, I don't stand a chance. Like, she is strong, man. Like, the things that she's accomplished in her 20-something years on this earth, like, just everything. Like, if she couldn't make it out, I don't stand a chance. There's no way that I could get out of this hole. So yeah, that was really hard. But I think that kind of opened my eyes up to, okay, Veronica, if this is something that you're really considering, you have to lay it all out there. Like, you have to give it your best shot at life. Does that make sense? I don't know, like I was just at this point where I had a lot of this ideation going on, and I figured if this was an option I was giving myself, I needed to make sure that I expelled all my other options first and really give myself a good shot at living life to its fullest, to what I would find as successful, because this whole like working full time was not my definition of success anymore. And that's when I kind of went down this like rabbit hole of converting a vehicle to be able to live in full time and then travel full time. Figured, okay, we can try this, and if this isn't like what we're wanting to do, like we'll try the next thing. I just need to keep thinking, I need to keep trying different ways of life until I hopefully can just like find where I belong, find where I feel like life is worthy of living. And so yeah, that's how this whole crazy concept kind of got started for us personally. I ended up finding this van out in Wichita, Kansas, so we made the 4-hour drive out there. Logan and I spent the next year of our lives just gutting the interior of it because it was, you know, just a regular schmegular passenger van, so ripping out all of the original shag carpet, all of the walls, the window frames, the ceiling, everything. Still working full time, so we were gutting everything just like on the weekends or nights if we could bear it somehow in our schedule, which didn't usually happen. But halfway through that gutting of the van, we kind of decided that if this is something that we really wanted to do, like we actually wanted to make this like our home, we had to be able to stand up. So the build itself kind of got derailed for a second until I could source a high top to put on top of there, because at the time they weren't making fiberglass tops for these old vans. Like, I think that there's a couple companies out nowadays like Fiberine or something where they do sell high tops, but they're like an ass load of money that I don't have, nor do I have the money to install. So thankfully I was able to find this high top, and we cut off the original top of the van. We attached this top onto this van by ourselves. That was a whole journey in itself. And then our second year in the build, we ended up quitting our jobs to work on this full-time as our job, because we had no experience in woodworking, in automotive mechanic work, and plumbing and electricity and anything like that. So we really had to full send and like dedicate our lives to building this thing out. Yeah. And that's that. That's how we got here today. I will say nowadays my mental headspace is significantly better than it's been in a long time. I think just like living in like my hometown area for such a long time really stunted me. But at the same time, like I was fighting my way out of that area for such a long time. I tried to move to freaking China to get away from where I was, right? And that ended up being like a month before the outbreak of COVID happened in China, because that was in October when I was supposed to leave, and I think the COVID thing all went down in late November or so. So I don't know, at the time I was like, oh, this is just meant to be. Like, I wasn't supposed to do this journey. I was supposed to be led to this journey instead. Your problems are always gonna follow you. You can't run away from your problems. But I do think that a change of perspective and or a change of pace in life can help you move through your problems and come out on the other side of them a better version of you. And yeah, I'm really thankful for where I am today. And if you're still here listening to my spiel of my life experience thus far, I'm really thankful for you being here. This thing is like very odd, and I don't know. I have like maybe 5 people that like come back and are interested in me, and hey man, I'll continue going on for you 5 people alone. Like I don't know, I'm solely just doing what I enjoy nowadays, which I typically stretch myself pretty thin because I have a lot of interests, I have a lot of passions, and videography is just one of them. So I'm trying to still get my fix for everything else, but documenting my life is something I've always done. I foresee myself continuing doing. I don't know, if you dig it, if you can relate, or if you can't relate at all, and that's why you are here. Happy to have you in my little corner of the internet. The next video I have coming up that should be out in the next day or two, if it's not out already, is from autumn. And so while we're technically in winter right now, and I'm currently in the state of Florida, what you will be seeing is some really beautiful time spent in the mountains in Tennessee in October and November area. So yeah, unfortunately I'm not able to post in real time at the moment, except for this weird situation that's going on right now. We recently had this like big thing kind of like swoop into our lives and completely dishevel all of our future plans and whatnot. So hopefully I can start getting all of these videos pushed out a little bit quicker of a pace, so I can kind of catch up on all this prep work that I'm doing for this big event that's about to go down in the beginning of January or so. So then I can start editing my real-time video footage. That is that. I'm gonna leave you there. Again, if you made it this far, thank you so much. I am so beyond happy to have you, and I hope I continue to see you in the next videos to come. All love. Veronica. My knees. My knees.